This is Assessment 1 of the Introduction to Psychology 1000 course. Our topic is child sexual abuse, where we are going to investigate the topic fully and outline 2 research methods as it pertains to psychology. Child sexual abuse explained. According to the Australian Psychology Society, child sexual abuse is the involvement of a child in sexual activity that he or she does not fully comprehend, is unable to give informed consent to, or for which the child is not developmentally prepared, or else that violates the laws or social taboos of society. Psychology has much to contribute, not only in relation to the treatment and management of the impact of child sexual abuse, but also in understanding and promoting the conditions that prevent abuse from occurring. Behaviorism. Behaviorism approach in psychology is an approach to understanding the behavior of humans. One's behavior can be caused by the history and direct experiences of the environment. Children who have suffered early abuse or neglect may later present with significant behavior problems, including emotional instability, depression, and a tendency to be aggressive or violent with others. Signs and effects of children who have been sexually abused. Signs: avoiding being alone with or frightened of people or a person they know. Language or sexual behavior you wouldn't expect them to know. Having nightmares or bedwetting. Alcohol or drug misuse. Self-harm. Changes in eating habits or developing an eating problem. Unexplained changes in behavior or poor bonding with friends or families. Moving on to effects: anxiety and depression, eating disorders, post-traumatic stress, difficulty coping with stress, self-harm, suicidal thoughts and suicide, sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy, feelings of shame and guilt, drug and alcohol problems, relationship problems with family, friends, and partners.
Mental health issues. It is proven that many survivors suffer from chronic anxiety and psychosis. Victims may end up having post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. PTSD is a serious mental condition that develops after shock, terrifying, or dangerous events. These events are called traumas. After trauma, many suffer from fear, anxiety, and sadness. The feeling of shame, fear, and guilt leads survivors on the road of depression. Depression is an illness that involves the body, mood, and thoughts. It affects how someone feels about themselves. Other types of mental issues are personality disorder, bipolar disease, and dissociative disorders. Alcohol and substance abuse. Survivors suffer from shock, flashbacks, and painful memories, and oftentimes turn to drugs and alcohol to get through their daily lives. You could somewhat refer to this as their coping mechanisms. The need for alcohol and substances on a day-to-day basis will result in a negative physical effect on their bodies. Victims who abuse alcohol and drugs end up having health complications such as heart attacks or damaged kidneys and lungs. Interpersonal relationships. Survivors of sexual abuse often have difficulty establishing relationships. They have difficulties with trust, fear of intimacy, and interpersonal boundaries. Sexual abuse is often initiated by someone that the child loved, which leads them to believe that anyone they love will hurt them. It also breaks the child's trust, which breaks the interpersonal boundaries as they feel violated. Intimacy is dampened because of the trauma they endured. It may then leave them uninterested in being sexual with someone during their adult life. Research methods. When selecting research methods, ethical considerations came into play. Every participant or participant's parents if the participants are minors, will be given consent forms before the research begins. They will also receive a detailed description on the topic that is to be researched. Participants will also be aware that they have the right to stop participating in the study at any point in time. Case study. A case study is a qualitative form of research. However, quantitative data may be incorporated as part of a mixed method. Qualitative research is a scientific method of observation to gather non-numeric data, whereas quantitative data is a systematic investigation of phenomena by gathering quantifiable data and performing statistical or mathematical techniques. A case study involves an observation of one person or a group of people over a period of time. Advantages of a case study is that it allows verifiable data from the direct source. There are also many methods within a case study that can provide more data for research. The main criticism of this type of method is that the data collected is not necessarily generalized to the wider population. Also, this method is deemed to be labor-intensive when collecting data. Interview. An interview is a conversation for gathering information. A research interview involves an interviewer who asks open-ended questions and an interviewee who responds to those questions. Advantages include the ability to allow the interviewer to understand experiences that the interviewee has lived. The interviewer is also able to control the conversation with the specific open and end questions that are being asked. The interviewer can also decide on a location that will be private and quiet that may put the individual at ease through the process of the interview. A few disadvantages include the expense when conducting interviews, and also there are chances that the interview may be biased in terms of human error on holding preconceived judgment towards the interviewee.
A research design is a framework that has been created to find answers to research questions. When conducting research, psychologists use three types of designs: the longitudinal design, the cross-sectional design, and the sequential design. Longitudinal studies look at the same group of people at different times, while cross-sectional studies look at different groups of people at the same time. Sequential design combines both a longitudinal design and a cross-sectional design. It aims to correct some of the problems inherent in the cross-sectional and longitudinal design. Summary on scholarly articles. Violence against children in the Caribbean. This report represents the Caribbean section of the global study, which will summarize the status of knowledge on violence against children. Information obtained through library and internet searches, responses from governmental structures, questionnaires, and the Caribbean Consultation on Violence Against Children, Trinidad, March 25, 2005. Data was also sought from the 16 CARICOM countries targeted for this review through a questionnaire. The third major source of information was the Caribbean Consultation on Violence Against Children, which was held in Port of Spain, Trinidad, on March 9 to 11, 2005. These countries is included in the problem of violence in the Caribbean has been widely discussed and condemned. In another article, read Children at Risk, a review of sexual abuse incidents and child protection issue in Jamaica Miller P. 2014. Data was collected from different sources such as the local media reports in Jamaica, tells a sad, worrying tale of a society in moral decline. Local media reports have spotlighted the issue of rape and other forms of sexual abuse and highlighted them as serious cause for concern. The Gleaner 2006A, 2006B, 2011. Office of the Children Register 2010, Jamaica Consular Force 2011, Blaine 2012. Almost on a weekly basis, the local press reports on another child who has been molested or raped. In the 18 months between January and June 2014, a few newspaper headlines emphasized this worsening national dilemma.
How do we resolve child sexual abuse? Raising awareness of the unacceptability of child abuse and promoting the notion that stopping child abuse is everyone's responsibility. A rigorous evaluation and strengthening existing child abuse prevention program. Shifting the prevention of child abuse from children to adults. Exploring, evaluating, strengthening new approach to preventing child abuse. Making mental health service available to all those affected by child abuse. Thank everyone to listening to our presentation.